Los Angeles. This is the Special Report with Areva Martin.
Welcome to the Special Report, and I am your host, Areva Martin. Today, we're diving into one of the most consequential, and I should say, underreported political wins of the year. It is the election of Judge Susan Crawford to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Her victory is more than just a state-level judicial appointment. It could change the course of reproductive rights, redistricting, and democracy itself. Here to help us break it all down is former chair of the DNC for Milwaukee County, a Democratic powerhouse and political strategist, Christopher Walton. Welcome, Christopher, to the Special Report, and always good to see you, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, Chris, for people outside of Wisconsin who may be saying, why do we care about a Supreme Court race in the middle of the country, and who may feel like this is just another, judicial race? Help us understand why the rest of America should care about this seat and Judge Crawford's win.
Absolutely. And we should care because it's so important. Wisconsin is, as goes Wisconsin, so goes the nation. Wisconsin was literally the closest state in the 2024 elections of those 7 battleground states, only with Trump winning by about 30,000 votes. And so this is a state where we literally make those decisions. All of our votes count. Every single election in Wisconsin is maybe about a 20, 30,000 vote margin in any direction. But in this past week, we had an election that was more than a 20, 30 vote margin. Judge Crawford, Justice-elect Crawford, who won, is going to actually help us maintain reproductive freedom in the state of Wisconsin. She's going to stand up and fight for voting rights in the state of Wisconsin. She's going to continue pushing forward and allowing us to ungerrymander our maps so we can have fair and equal representation for the whole state of Wisconsin, which will eventually lead to being better represented in Washington for everybody. Because now, when you have a state that's not gerrymandered and it's the battleground state, you get a more clear picture of what American people want to be in charge.
So, Chris, I know you have been involved in many of these tough Wisconsin elections that you just described, these 20, 30,000 vote elections. And I know you weren't directly involved with Judge Crawford's race, but you have been talking to the operatives and the folks who were responsible for her victory. Tell us what you know about that campaign strategy. What did it look like, and what made this win possible? Because this happened at a time when Democrats in particular were feeling pretty defeated over the just barrage of executive orders and everything coming at us from this White House.
Right. And we used it to our advantage. So much of the things that were happening in Wisconsin, we led poll to poll. At one point, it got within 5 points of where Brad Schimmel, who's the former attorney general for the state of Wisconsin, he got as close to as about 5 points to her. But we kept pushing hard. We started early, thanks to people like our great chairman, Ben Wickler, who, while running for DNC chair, still kept his day job and kept fighting to make sure Wisconsin was going to be able to elect this upcoming justice and keep the progressive liberal majority on the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. We got lucky, though. Every election in Wisconsin is very much so a 20, 30,000 vote margin. We got lucky because we had been in place. We had so many amazing operatives on the ground doing the job, but we also got a great candidate, and we also got a great opponent. And then he brought in extras like Elon Musk. And when you bring
somebody, hold on a second, Chris. We definitely want to talk about the role that the richest man in the world, I should say, or definitely the U.S., played in this election. There's this image of him at a rally with the big cheese head on, coming into this state with millions and millions of dollars he's pouring into this Republican candidate. You Wisconsin folks don't suffer fools and don't take kindly to outsiders. So what was the response to Elon Musk jumping in this judicial race?
We definitely, we're Midwest nice. We love and welcome everybody to come out and visit. But Elon, and we do thank him for the millions of dollars that he pumped into the economy, even though he's taken out many jobs around the rest of the country. But he was absolutely radioactive. And his attempt to bribe Wisconsin voters to it was an insult. Like, we don't. Again, we're Midwest nice, but we don't like this. What he was doing was completely out of sorts, and the things he's doing work right now with the Trump administration, literally firing thousands of people across the federal government, including jobs here in the state of Wisconsin. We weren't accepting that, and we don't want that. And it just kept adding. It compounded the injury, the insult every single time. And that chainsaw, I guess it fell on his head this time, because even though he spent all that money, we weren't going for it, and we won a race by about 10 points.
Yeah, that was pretty miraculous. And I would say Democrats needed that shot in the arm because, as I said, we were feeling pretty defeated coming into this new year after that sweeping loss, not just at the presidential level, but at the state, well, not the state, but the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate. There was a question about, can Democrats win again? Democrats, we tend to worry a whole lot. We get very anxious. And so this race was really significant. One of the things that came up a lot, Chris, in this race was reproductive freedom. Now, we saw when Kamala Harris was running those 107 days, abortion rights and the rights to reproductive freedoms were very much front and center. But we haven't heard a whole lot about abortion rights or anti-even abortions policies coming out of this White House. So how did reproductive freedom play into this judicial race?
Honestly, it played perfectly. A broken clock is right twice a day, and the Republicans played this perfectly into our hands. You said you wanted to put it to the states and make the states decide, so the states are deciding. They're deciding in states like Kentucky and in Missouri and in Montana, of all places, and of course in Wisconsin. We want our right to have reproductive freedoms. We want to be able to make the decisions about our own personal lives, and women have the right to make their decisions about what happens with their bodies. Period. And so the people of Wisconsin have spoken, and they spoke by a wide margin. And one definitely considering a lot of the national conversation has been that the Democratic Party is very down and out. And yeah, we are in a dark moment, but in these states, that moment is being turned into action. We are out there pushing hard, getting the votes in. We had Justice-elect Crawford won more votes than anybody in Wisconsin history for the Wisconsin State Supreme Court.
Wow.
And we had an amazing turnout. We had a midterm election level turnout in the spring election following a presidential. Like, we are motivated. We are ready to go, and we're going to keep fighting. And this is just a harbinger of things to come in New Jersey and Virginia, around the country.
So we know that the issue of abortion rights, as I said, going into the presidential election of 2024, everyone thought that was going to be the issue. It was going to drive out young people. It was going to drive suburban white women to the polls, and we would see this just groundswell of support. Now the pundits, looking back at the election, says, well, the Democrats probably spent too much time on that issue. It didn't have, the long coattails that people thought it had, and that the Dems should have been more focused on the economy. Now, of course, this is the Monday morning quarterbacking that happens when you lose an election. But it doesn't look like Judge Crawford or folks in Wisconsin shied away from that abortion issue, even though the national pundits have said it was the wrong issue for Kamala Harris and the Democrats to, stake the 2024 election on.
Right. And, a lot of it is the partisanship of it. Yes, there were some economic issues going on. But when it comes down to it, especially in the Supreme Court race, your state Supreme Court is going to determine if you have your right to an abortion. Your state Supreme Court is going to determine whether you have the right to gerrymander your maps or not have maps gerrymandered. The state Supreme Courts around the country are making those decisions, because that's what, again, a broken clock is right twice a day. The Republicans wanted all those issues decided on the state level, but now the Democrats are putting their money in, we're putting the effort in, we're putting the fight in, and our voters are active and engaged to make sure we're fighting back. Yeah, we're taking these states back state by state. And as we get to the next election, we're going to be fully prepared and ready to go, especially in 2026 and, of course, in 2028.
Now, you mentioned what you're seeing happening in other states like New Jersey and Virginia, on the heels of this historic election of Judge Crawford. What are you seeing in those other states?
Yeah, I know it was just announced today that the state of Virginia, the Democratic Party of Virginia, is going to be dropping a 7-figure ad buy going at Elon Musk, making sure that folks know how how bad he is helping to force our economy into a recession. And a lot of those government employees, especially in Northern Virginia, they're going to get that message and they're going to receive that message because a lot of them are the ones being attacked and fired. You know, a lot of people in the DC area are losing their jobs. What better way to say this is a prime example of what we did not want to happen? And Virginia didn't vote for Donald Trump any of the 3 times he's ran. This is what you didn't want. And now look what is happening. Hold the people who are responsible for it. And Elon Musk is one of the chief people responsible for all the things that are happening to you. Make sure they fill your vote.
No, it's so important in this moment in particular, and everybody's looking already, Chris, at 2026, those critical midterms to see if we can win back the House, what's going to happen in the U.S. Senate, and then, of course, 2028, all eyes are on, that opportunity to get rid of Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and the whole MAGA administration. What do you think some of the critical takeaways are from this race, the Crawford race, that we should be looking to utilize across the country for the midterms in 26 and then the presidential in 28?
You know, I think we need to be clear. We need to be concise. We need to know exactly what we want to do and make it very clear and make it plain to people. We need to get out there and fight. Yes, we need to raise money. Yes, it's not going to be easy. We know what the stakes are, and we have to go out there and fight just as hard every single day. Now, I will give Justice Crawford this. She ran a flawless campaign. But most times you don't get to run a completely flawless campaign. But she ran one. And now we have to make sure in 26 and in 28 and beyond that we're doing that. We're doing everything we can to make sure we're hitting all of our targets, hitting all of our spots, raising the money. We got the money game down packed. Now we got to make sure we're getting our voters out and make sure we're turning them out every single election. We can't let up.
So speaking of turning out voters, I'm sure you saw, and it's happened in Milwaukee, happened in Wisconsin, all over the country. 600,000 people is the estimate, could be closer to a million, turned out to oppose Donald Trump, the tariffs, Elon Musk, the cuts in government jobs, the freezing of federal grants, the freezing of grants to the NIH, and just all of the horrible executive orders and the policies coming out of this administration. So if you turned on your television or if you were on social media, you may have seen just, hundreds of thousands of people at these rallies. But then on social media, Chris, were these videos of Black folks doing the boots on the ground and popping fans, that line dance, and still Black folks saying, we told y'all so, we're sitting this one out. Do you see that happening in Wisconsin, or Black folks kind of sitting on the sideline, or was that just some kind of AI generated meme that was going around on social media this weekend?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think if you look back to last November, we did our part. Especially 92% of Black women got out there and made it happen. They voted with they put their boots on the ground and went out there and voted. Same with Black men. We got out there and we made sure that we upheld Vice President Harris, and we said this is the direction we want to go. Now, looking at this past week, we have definitely shown up. And that's one of the reasons we won the state Supreme Court race. We won the state superintendent race. We elected a new Black mayor in La Crosse, Wisconsin. We also flipped a county executive's seat in Winnebago County, Wisconsin, and reelected another in Dane County. We got out there and voted. But yeah, we are kind of taking a step back. I think we've done our part. We're gonna let everybody else take a stand. Everybody else step forward, go out there and do this fight, because it's our fight, but it's not our fight, so to speak, because this is a constant conversation we have of getting people out to vote. And they always go, you always get that scene of them at a diner somewhere in a rural area, and it's mostly white folks. White people make up a majority of the United States of America. They need to have the decision about which way they want to go and where does want this country to go. Do you want a country that's going to be forward moving and progressive thinking, or do you want a country that's going to be conservative leaning and falling backwards? Do you want a country that's actually working to build the economy, or do you want a country that the president has literally shot a hole in it? Now, I remember when Trump said he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, I didn't know he was talking about the U.S. economy, but I think he's just about done it this time. And what can we do? So I think there's a time for choosing, and we need all of our coalition partners to stand up and vote just like we do. And, we'll be out there when election day comes. We've shown that. But I think it is also time to, take a step back and let everybody lead from behind for once.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. We know at the end of the day, Democrats, Black Democrats in particular, particularly Black women over 45, over 50, are the most reliable voting bloc for the Democratic Party, hands down. And yes, a lot of women online, Black women online, said it's our time to rest. But I know, and that Black women are organizing, Black women are strategizing. We are not going to give up on this country that we built, not going to give up on this Democratic Party, because we now know, as flawed as this Democratic Party is, the alternative is authoritarianism. The alternative is this tyrant in the White House that's trying to strip away every right that we fought from. Literally talking about going back to segregation, as he's also talking about cutting critical safety net programs like Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and so many other programs, not that are handouts. When we think about Social Security, people have worked and paid their money into Social Security. So how dare you even suggest that there are going to be cuts to the Social Security program, but yet this president is doing so.
Right.
Speaking of Black women, I'm sure you saw the announcement over this weekend, not the official announcement, but on social media trending, that Keisha Lance Bottoms, the former mayor of Atlanta, is going to be making an official announcement, throwing her hat into the ring for this 2026 gubernatorial race in the state of Georgia.
Right.
Challenging what is going to be some Republican candidate. Not sure if Kemp is going to run again or if he's termed out. But we know that Trump and MAGA are looking at that Senate seat that is also up in 26, Ossoff. And we should expect Elon Musk and MAGA to pour a lot of money into Georgia. Did you get excited when you heard and saw that Mayor Lance Bottoms is running? Do you think, what are you thinking about that?
I'm excited. I'm always excited when I see a fresh young Democratic candidate jump out into the field. I love to see what's happening right now. We have so many amazing candidates that are now coming online, even more after we voted here in Wisconsin. I think she's going to be an excellent candidate. I'm looking forward to seeing what she does. I think there's going to be a lot of amazing candidates that are going to run out of Georgia, because Georgia is a battleground state. That energy is in Georgia now. And so they're not going back. They're not going back. There will not be a red state. They're not a blue state yet, but they're not going back to being just a solid red state. And so we're going to have people coming out of the woodwork to run for these spots for governor and for lieutenant governor and attorney general up and down the ballot. We have some amazing candidates and people currently in the state legislature. And I know that they're going to put a lot of money and effort to go after Senator Ossoff. But, if we can balance the ticket out and we have Keisha Lance Bottoms running, so we have a Black woman running and we have a white man running, representing the new future of Georgia, I like those odds. And I think we can actually flip that governor's race, because I know they're trying to get Brian Kemp to run because he's term limited out. They're trying to get him to go against Ossoff, but I don't think he's too dumb. I think he's actually looking at the 28 elections. Like, I could probably miss this blue wave that's coming and go for that. So I'm looking forward to seeing who does show up and who are officially our nominees. But seeing Mayor Bottoms potentially running and then potentially being the nominee, I'm super excited to see where that goes. And I'm looking forward to making sure we're getting whoever the nominee is and Senator Ossoff elected and all across the country.
Well, we do know that Stacey Abrams came very, very close in her first run for governor in the state of Georgia. She, among other voting rights organizations, the voting rights organization that she ran, registered a record number of new Democratic voters, and that she showed how a Democrat could take a historically ruby red state like Georgia and win, because we know Georgia has a lot of folks who've moved there from New York, from California, from all over the country, and they come with a different perspective, more liberal in their thinking, more independent in their thinking. And I think Keisha, as you said, I'm excited about her, Mayor Lance Bottoms, running. I think it's going to energize the voters in the state of Georgia and all over this country. Chris, because we are talking about these races, critical races in other parts of the state and across the country, what can Democrats, learn from how this race was won for the judge? Because obviously Keisha Lance Bottoms And anybody that's running in Virginia, we got a black man running for governor in New Jersey. We had a lot of really interesting races coming up. As you say, young black Dems who are running. What do you tell them to take away from Crawford's win that can help them be victorious as well?
Don't try to make it about everything else that's going on. Run your race. Focus your campaign on you and what you want to do. If and when they come, be ready. Be ready. Have your message together. Have your time frame put together of what you want to do. Don't run the race they want you to run. Run your race. Fight, fight. Get out there and get going. And we'll be there to stand by you and support you. The wave is coming at your back to push you over the line, but you have to do what you need to do to make sure you're in the right spot. And we're going to do that all across the country, from New Jersey to Virginia this year, in the midterms next year when we flip that governorship in Georgia and keep it in Wisconsin and keep it in Michigan. We're going to go all across the country with this thing. And I think that if we are looking at where things are going right now, what the Republicans are doing, they're putting a hole in the boat. And it's going to be you can't campaign on that. What can you campaign on? Oh, I caused a recession. You can't campaign on that.
I hope what we see, Chris, is the people who are feeling the pain points right now because they've been fired without notice from the federal government, people who have lost critical value in their 401k plans because of the uncertainty in this economy. Folks who go to the grocery store and still see those high egg prices and see those high grocery prices. I hope that these Democrats do some really good storytelling, connecting people's real life pain to the policies coming out of this White House. And I really hope, after being in every battleground state myself, that the candidates are running now, that they're in their neighborhoods, they're in their communities now, and they're organizing, that they are communicating and engaging with voters. Because what we learned last year, and we know this to be true, we've known it always, you can't just show up on GOTV weekend. You can't just show up, a week or 2 weeks before an election. You can't just throw, millions and millions of dollars into ads on either radio, television, or social media. You've got to be talking to voters year round. You've got to be organizing year round, and you've got to be making a compelling case using real life people, not political talk, not legalese, but having those people who have felt the pain. And as we know, it's a whole lot of people feeling a whole lot of pain right now. So, Chris, I want to do a little lightning round set of questions with you. I'm going to ask you a question, and you tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. Ready?
Let's go.
Okay, let's do it. One word, just one word, to describe the 2024 Wisconsin battleground.
Tight.
Okay, got that. Most surprising voter trend you saw this election cycle?
One word?
No. Okay. First thing comes to mind.
The first thing that comes to mind, the fact that Wisconsin remains so close to the line, and even Wisconsin was actually bluer than the rest of the nation's vote. The fact that the Atlanta area, the suburbs and the city got bluer, but the rest of the state, the southern Georgia, there's Atlanta and then there's Georgia. Georgia got redder, but Atlanta got bluer, which lets me know that we're still in that fight, and Georgia is going to be very much so in play. The fact that, Pennsylvania and Michigan were so close, and if you look at the issues there, especially in a state like Michigan, we could still win Michigan. We could still win Pennsylvania. We just need to get that right sauce. That maybe it was more time. Clearly, we put the money in, but we just need a little more time. I felt that if we had more time, we could have done more. And I think that whoever's the nominee in 28, be it Vice President Harris or anyone else, I think it's a winner. I think it's a nomination worth having.
All right. What is giving you hope right now?
Wisconsin always.
I love it. I love it. Cheesehead, die hard, 10 toes down for the great state of Wisconsin. And I met, as you know, a lot of those Milwaukee African-American elected officials. I was impressed beyond impressed. The chief of police, judges, city council members, county executives. I mean, the number of young African Americans serving in elected office in Milwaukee should be inspirational to everyone across this country, because we're not just doing line dancing, as you said. We got boots on the ground, and we are electing Black folks across this country. We're electing Democrats across this country. And Donald Trump can't last always, right? We know this too shall pass. We've just got to stay committed. We've got to stay in this fight, and we've got to stay connected. I'm so grateful for the work that you do in Milwaukee. Thank you so much for your insight. Thank you for what you are doing to protect democracy in this moment. And to everyone watching, this win in Wisconsin proves that our courts matter. It proves that your voices matter, that your votes, they do matter. Until next time, I'm Areva Martin, and this has been The Special Report.
Calling all BIPOC college students, recent college graduates, and clinicians. Here's my story about CORE, a unique workforce development program that is changing lives. My brother is the most caring person you'll ever meet. With his autism diagnosis, my family had to fight to make sure that the resources he deserved were available. That's why my goal has always been to help children with developmental disabilities and give them chances my brother may have missed. So when I heard about the CORE Fellowship, I knew immediately it was for me. The fellowship opens doors for myself and others like me. They offer training, a stipend while you're learning, job placement, and they'll pay up to $10,000 of my student loan debt. The CORE Fellowship is going to allow me to achieve my life's purpose. They care about me, so I can care about others, like my brother. Visit the website to learn more about the CORE Fellowship. Discover your core passion, your power, and your purpose. Apply today.